What the fuck is going on with this brain rot shit? This is trash. You're allowed to be optimistic. You're allowed to enjoy the W, but you also are not allowed to then become delusionally happy and fucking manic. People sometimes say, when do you disagree with Hasan? I disagree with Hasan about Bashir.
Mike. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. But you may want to start changing your ways.
I was trying to not ruin the vibe, but I've seen too many people get excited about Kamala Harris at this point. Like, I'm happy Joe Biden is gone. But Kamala Harris doesn't believe in anything, guys. All right? Like, this is why she failed in 2020. She had all the advantages of the world. People forget this. During the 2020 election, she was by far and away the most hyped candidate. There was a poll of all sorts of like Democratic operatives and insiders on 538 very early on. She had like 60% support. Bernie Sanders was like not even on there. Everybody was all hyped, you know, black. She was basically seen as the female Obama among the Democratic operatives. There was so much fucking hype. But her problem is that politics had changed. Bernie Sanders had changed politics in 2016 and made it a lot more substantive. People wanted you to talk about policies and how you were going to make their life better. You couldn't walk around and go hope and change, right? You had to actually be like, okay, I'm going to provide you this. I'm going to raise the minimum wage, that. And she fumbled it. She tried to run as a progressive. She tried to run to the left, but people didn't jump ship from Bernie. And so when she realized, oh, fuck, there's nobody jumping ship from Bernie, she tried to tack back to the center. And she changed her Medicare for All policy to a Medicare for All policy with a 10-year phase-in. And you won't lose your private insurance unless you'd want to. And all sorts of incoherence. And she got ripped apart by Tulsi Gabbard. You know, it was a nation that wanted police reform that was finally, at least on the Democratic side, started to get suspicious of our prison industrial complex. And so she, you know, her background as a prosecutor, an attorney general, and people started to litigate every single prosecutorial decision made by the attorney general of California. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be nice stuff. And she just collapsed. And worst of all, she was a bad leader. She ran out of money. She had her sister running some of her campaign. They like spent all their money. They couldn't raise it. And they went bankrupt. She was a bad candidate. Now, she had one period where she did well. One period where she did well. I'm going to show you it.
And I will say also that in this campaign, we've also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place a requirement that all my special agents would wear body cameras and keep those cameras on.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, you have been...
So, by the way, so that was it. That little girl was me, was like that was her peak moment. And if you remember, this was the one moment where she actually did pretty well for a second. Here, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you here at the polling average. You see this yellow line? This is Harris. Blue line is Bernie. Green line is Biden. Okay. So if you go through the primary, I don't know why it's broken at this point, but if you go back, you see this little hump where that was Harris. She briefly went into second place for like a couple of weeks. Then she started falling off and all those people jumped onto Elizabeth Warren. And then Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Biden were neck and neck. And then Warren went up, and for a single day, I think it was, for a single day, Elizabeth Warren was the front runner. One day. And then she started to fall off, and then Bernie Sanders started to gain. And then in February, after Bernie Sanders won, what was the Nevada caucus was February 14th. Through 18th. Bernie Sanders surged into frontrunner status. Biden started to fall down. Everybody started to panic. And then South Carolina happened. And that was that. They thought, oh fuck, it might actually be Bernie. Oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck, everybody drop out. As you can see, 3 people dropped out on the same day and endorsed Biden. Obama. So anyway, that was the race. That was the 2020 race. It was, So if you remember that little hitch, that was the one time Kamala Harris did well. But here's the problem. The reason why I bring all this up is what happened next. Well, people were like, okay, do you support busing now? Do you support busing to desegregate schools? And Kamala Harris was like, no. So she was like, listen, I benefited from school busing, but I don't think we should do it now. That's crazy. I think that's in the past. So everybody was like, huh? You're going to say that he was a racist for opposing a policy that you oppose? Like what? And she fell off. Because, again, she doesn't have the courage of her convictions. She can't explain anything.
Trans rights. I mean, you did not hesitate to veto a sweeping anti-trans bill passed by the Kentucky state legislature. But your opponents still kind of came after. They also, because of that, probably came after you on that. It didn't work.
We're very worried. I got to say, I mean, listen, chat. People sometimes say, when do you disagree with Hasan? I disagree with Hasan about Bashir. I don't trust a Southern Democrat. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't want a centrist Democrat from the South who has his entire career is being owned by a Republican supermajority. Okay? Like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to have a Democrat whose political, mind was formed in that kind of environment. I want a Democrat who actually won. I don't want Josh Shapiro, who is a fucking a wolf in sheep's clothing, mega Zionist, called Palestinian protesters the KKK, supported a school voucher bill, which, by the way, chat, voucher bills are not charter bills. A voucher bill is way to the right of a charter bill. It is the Republicans' wildest fantasy dream education policy. It doesn't even pass in Republican states most of the time because it's so right wing and people hate it. So Josh Shapiro is fucking terrible, right winger. Bashir, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but as I said before, a Southern Democrat. So unions are weak in the South. Even if he goes and visits and says, I believe in unions, and goes and visits some defunct 20-member union in fucking Kentucky. That's not the political environment I want somebody in. His record is getting owned. So how left-wing could he actually be? Mark Kelly won't sign on to the PRO Act. And everybody else has some real downsides of we can't take we shouldn't take a senator, number one, because the Democrats need every single one. So moving any senators out, they're not going to make that much unless you have evidence that you could show me that picking them is going to significantly change the race. I don't think you should be picking somebody who is disposable. Take it from one of us, those of us in West Virginia dealing with Manchin. You don't want one of these Dems. Exactly. I don't want a Southern Democrat. I'm sorry. No. So somebody who doesn't get owned, somebody who actually brings something to the table, and somebody who isn't a conservative Dem. There's only one pick. There's only one pick. There is only one. It's not very complicated, chat. And this is what I like to hear. This is how I talk about abortion. This is how J.B. Pritzker talks about abortion.
Abortion is not a dirty word. It's a medical procedure. And when we make something shameful to say, we make it shameful to do. It's none of our business if an abortion is rare as long as it's safe and legal. Let's be honest about what we need to fight for when it comes to reproductive rights. I do not think that we should go back to a world where Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. With all due respect, Roe was great while it lasted, but it ultimately failed us. It didn't hold when we needed it the most. We need to pass a federal law that guarantees the right to an abortion. Full stop. Abortion is not a dirty word.
I mean, this is some basic ass shit. When is the last time you heard a Democrat who actually got people to cheer and mean it by saying something new? And many people have said to me, I don't trust billionaires. I think you're totally right. But here's the reality. He's been doing things in Illinois that are against the interest of billionaires. He put the right to organized labor in the Constitution of Illinois. He didn't do a speech at the local IBEW and say how, oh, unions are really important, blah, 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 platitudes. He actually made a real policy. He's a tax avoider. Literally, so am I. If I can avoid paying taxes, I avoid it because it's rational. What the fuck are you talking about? Does he support making it harder to do that? Does he support having a more straightforward policy? Like, what are you fucking talking about? Do you pay taxes that you don't have to pay? Are you stupid? The reality is that I don't, but as I said before, it's not about me liking these people. It's about me going, who's the most left-wing person? You have to prove to me that the alternative is more left-wing. That's it. That's it. Who's the most left-wing? And the reality is, of all the people, he's the most left-wing. He's also the most disposable in the sense that if he leaves Illinois, so what? It's not going to cause any problems. What about Tim Walz? I mean, Minnesota is like on a knife edge, but I don't know. I think that Pritzker is more left-wing than he is. So a left-wing billionaire doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I don't care about their class background. I care about what they do. Just gives me Fetterman vibes. I don't know about that. That's Shapiro, man, except without the fake progressivism. Fade is better. Is he on the table? Is he on the table? I mean, is he being vetted? I mean, happy. Republicans are going to go crazy on Chicago agenda. So what? Who gives a fuck? They're going to do it anyway. They're going to say California with her. So what? So fucking what? They're going to do it anyway. But you bring up Whitmer's background. I bring up Whitmer's background because she campaigned against Medicare for all. I bring up Whitmer's background because she got money from health industry lobbyists. Gretchen Whitmer, Michigan government, top donators. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. This is why she was able to win. Because the health insurance industry fucking loved her. And she's out, she said anyway. Now here's the thing. I'm not like most people. I don't feel parasocial feelings toward people. I just evaluate them based on what they say and what they do. And who is the most left wing. That's all I care about. I'm hearing pick the best candidate for us instead of what might get the least smoke from the right, because they'll lie and make up shit about every candidate anyway. Exactly. Do you want somebody who's going to be a fucking little bitch who's going to get lied about anyway? Or do you want somebody who fights back and might actually get you a win worth a damn? Bashir is fucking Tim Kaine. That's got to... I mean, Tim Kaine actually would be better than Bashir at this point. He's more left-wing than Bashir. And I really don't think you should be caring about who people tell you makes it more likely for Kamala to win. Nobody knows. It's literally made up. So if you don't know who's going to help Kamala win, then you should be focusing on things that are real. You know what's real? J.B. Pritzker can bring $500 million to the campaign if he wants. That means more field organizers. That means more fucking television ads. If you want to talk about who's going to make things more likely to win, that's the type of money that could actually change it. So if that's what you care about, then why the fuck are you talking about some loser from Kentucky? What the fuck is he going to bring to the table? Literally. No, seriously. Let's be honest. Let's talk politics like adults instead of kids watching it on the internet. What does Bashir bring us? Josh Shapiro brings you Wall Street billionaires who support voucher programs and who are against the teachers union. Mark Kelly brings you anti-union fucking senator. The only one. He's the anti-Vance. No, he's not. I mean, I guess he is the anti-Vance in the sense that he was raised rich and his dad was the governor of Kentucky and he basically was handed his entire career from nepotism. I guess that makes him the anti-Vance. As if anybody even gives a fuck about Vance anyway. Let's be honest. Nobody gives a fuck. Bashar brings you decent takes. Decent takes? That's what we want for the next president of the United States after Kamala Harris? Is decent? Bashir probably appeals to white people more than JB. An effete Southern gentleman it appeals to people more than a big boy? I'm sorry, have you seen him talk? He's Pete Buttigieg with a Southern twang.
While preps were being made this morning for the Pride Parade, Governor J.B. Pritzker was signing an executive order at Lakeview High, that piece of paper creating a task force that will work on best practices for Illinois' transgender and gender-neutral students. That task force will work alongside the State Board of Education to create policies that should help those students focus on learning.
Model gender-inclusive policies for everything from gym class participation, school-based programs, usage of proper names and pronouns, to dress codes in every school in our state.
Ari Carayfield, a trans senior at Whitney Young High School, says he was lucky to have a strong support system during his transition, but that's not always the case.
Trans people, especially young people, and people of color have disproportionately higher rates of suicide, mental illness, substance abuse. We are more likely to experience homelessness, to be denied medical or legal services, and to be victims of violence.
To highlight that point, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton wore a T-shirt with the names of recently murdered Black trans women.
That we are committed to creating school environments that are welcoming, safe, supportive, inclusive, and free of discrimination and harassment for all.
Mayor Lightfoot admitted she struggled with her identity during high school despite being a popular class leader.
But I held a secret.
So all I can say is, like, you know, Bashir he's the bare minimum. Like if you're saying, well, he kind of supports trans rights, like, okay, that should be every Democrat. What are you talking about? This is beyond the bare minimum. The issue with JB is that 85% of the country outside of Illinois thinks Chicago is John Carpenter's Escape from LA IRL, and it doesn't play well with the undecideds. The Dems need to win. Okay, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it from the top, and I'm going to be honest with you. Anybody who thinks that the VP is what people vote for is a fucking moron. Nobody cares about JD Vance. Nobody cares about who the VP is for Kamala. Why do I care what the VP is? Because the VP has the inside track to be the next nominee. So who do you want to be the next Republican candidate for the Democrats? That's what you're really going for. So if you're ideological like we're all supposed to be, we stop with the media horse race narrative bullshit and we say, who is the most left-wing person that we can make the VP? Who, when given power, actually implemented the most left-wing policies? Because if somebody implemented left-wing policies when they had power already, we have a pretty good idea that they might pass left-wing policies when they have power nationally. If they were a conservative already, they're not suddenly going to change. The idea that the VP is how you're going to bring in a bunch of people is like, that's media brain, and there's no evidence that's true. Stop falling for that dumbass fucking shit. Who Kamala Harris picks as VP is not going to be swinging a state. It's not going to happen. I think there's a lot of people that buy into this idea that we're going to rescue the Southerners, that we need to go and appeal to the Southern progressives. Let me just say this. Southern progressives, you know what your job is? Your job is to help whatever swing districts there are, or whatever deep blue districts there are in your state, make them the most left-wing you can, and to donate to people that are coming from places that are actually progressive. We're not going to pick you guys. We might pick you if you're a progressive yourself. We're not going to pick some Southern Democrat so you guys feel included. You need to be a little bit more adult. A Southern Democrat is a fucking scumbag. They're anti-union. They're very often comfortable with racist shit. Like, this is a Southern Democrat. They suck. Deal with it. I'm sorry that you don't like to hear it, but it's fucking true. The more Southern Democrats we have on the ticket, the more conservative it's going to be. Yes, I know. And there is some truth to the idea that people think Chicago is more dangerous than it is. Yes. As a leftist Southerner, I'm waiting for the regime because we are winning here by popularity. Thank you for being intelligent. As somebody from Alabama that lives here, you are correct. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on you guys, but I'm not going to spend my time pretending that Southern white people are not like 90% racist as fuck. They are. They are different than white people from California or white people from Pennsylvania or New York even, or upstate New York. Like, white people from upstate New York are significantly less racist than people from the South. How do I know this? Because I've actually traveled around all these places, and white people in the South are like a different breed. Okay. And I know people don't like to hear this, and they kind of go like, oh no, you're coping. It's Alabama in the middle and Pennsylvania. No, it's not, because I've actually been to Alabama and I've been to central Pennsylvania. Sure, there's a ton of racist white people in York County, Pennsylvania, but there's like 4 times not racist people in York County, Pennsylvania than when you compare it to Alabama. Legitimately, 90% of white people in Alabama are dyed-in-the-wool racist. Like, not even a joke. Not a joke. Not a joke. Wouldn't a Kamala win effectively neuter the socialist movement for another 8 years? I'm sure none of them will take on the incumbent Kamala after the first term. I mean, yes. I do indeed think that a Kamala win would neuter the socialist movement. I do believe that would be true. As it did with Biden. What happened to the socialist movement after Biden won? We're on the defense. Because there wasn't anything aspirational to believe in. Nobody thought we had a serious chance of achieving power. I've seen way more Confederate flags in New York than Texas. That you are just not looking. You are just not looking. I work in rail and had to go to Gadsden, Alabama. The engineer I met there openly told me he was part of the KKK. Totally normalized it. Yeah, I know. I mean, by the way, I'm not saying this to bash you guys. I know that you're not racist. I know that you're a good person. I know that you want to believe that your community that you love could be better. But I'm just looking at the harsh realities of politics. Like, why is Alabama voting Republican? Explain how Alabama is voting Republican and Pennsylvania isn't. How is Pennsylvania not voting Republican and Alabama is? Alabama, 66% white. My point is Pennsylvania is whiter. 78.8. Pennsylvania is whiter than Alabama. Duh. 26.5% black in Alabama. 10%, 11% black in Pennsylvania. 2 or more races, 3% in Alabama, 4% in Pennsylvania. So why is Alabama so much more conservative than Pennsylvania? There's more than like 2.5 times more black people in Alabama than Pennsylvania, and Alabama votes like to some of the most right wing in the entire country because of the racial bribe. It was a deep South Southern plantation state with chattel slavery and then sharecropping and segregation. It's a culturally racist state. That's the reality. White people in the South, if somebody's white and they're from Alabama, they're sus. They're sus as fuck. Kelly and Shapiro are the leading candidates. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, God. That would be so fucking terrible. Oh, God, I'm gonna fucking puke. That would be fucking terrible. Holy shit. If it's Shapiro, I'm not voting Kamala. Just so you guys know. Fuck her. Not that I want either, but who is the lesser evil of the two? Mark Kelly. I thought you'd finish saying people don't vote vice president. I'm weird. But I'm about to, you know, all I can say is we need to get ready to fuck up the DNC. Those are probably my bottom two. Does anybody have the VP tier list? Does anyone have the VP tier list? What does your optimal ticket look like? I mean, my optimal ticket is... that's a big problem. I mean, like, it's not gonna happen, so I think we're rating this as like on probability of happening. I mean, like, again, probabilities of happening. It's not gonna happen, but like, what the fuck is this? This is more probable, but these aren't even gonna happen. So just leaving them aside as like not happening. Let's just put them in S tier. It's something like this. I mean, this is also F tier. She's not happening. I'll put her at the top of F tier. I really don't like Pete Buttigieg. I personally have disliked Pete Buttigieg. Maryland governor is a scumbag. Dean Phillips deserves to be at the top of F because he actually tried to run, and you know what? He deserves credit. Gretchen Whitmer. And I'm just, I don't give a fuck about these. Gretchen Whitmer is the top of F tier. I would put Bashir over Mark Kelly. Who am I forgetting that's a top tier candidate? Oh, Josh Shapiro. So here's the thing about Josh. I've known him since he's a state rep. Boring. No thanks. And it's not just because he's boring. It's because of the voucher bill. The voucher bill was one of the most disgusting things. And he, you know, hold on. Let me see if I can show you this.
And unrelated, there have been protests at universities across the state, at the University of Penn. What are your thoughts on everything that's been going on?
Every university has a responsibility, both a moral responsibility and a legal responsibility, to keep their students safe and free from discrimination. And I have reminded university presidents all across...
He's like a hyper-Zionist. He's like really very tightly associated with AIPAC. I think he may be like one of AIPAC's star candidates, like the one that they're pushing the hardest. I would literally call him... I would say, I don't think Israeli agent is too far off. But basically, this would be Benjamin Netanyahu running our government even more than Biden. Like, I think... if you want to do a genocide in Palestine, you pick him.
Pennsylvania of that.
Like if you're not just a confused boomer who's been tricked or is like brain rotten, but you are actively trying to murder the Palestinian people in total, like in mass graves, you pick Josh Shapiro.
And moral obligation. We've seen examples of universities, I think, handling it quite effectively. The University of Pittsburgh comes to mind. And then we've seen other examples where, quite frankly, the situation is getting out of control. And an example of that would be the University of Pennsylvania. By their own admission, the leaders at the University of Pennsylvania have made clear that those protesters, those who are living in these so-called encampments, are violating the rules of the university and, in some cases, the laws of the city of Philadelphia. The university has tried to negotiate and discuss the matter with those protesters. That has proven to not be effective. Over the last 24 hours at the University of Pennsylvania, the situation has gotten even more unstable and out of control. More rules have been violated. More laws have been broken. That is absolutely unacceptable. All students should feel safe when they're on campus. All students have a legal right to feel safe on campus. And the University of Pennsylvania has an obligation to their safety. It is past time for the university to act, to address this, to disband the encampment, and to restore order and safety on campus.
If the university doesn't, are you willing to take the step to take further measures?
The university needs to work with it. Universities need to work with their own police departments or within the framework of their local police departments in order to make sure students are safe on campus.
Colleges would face financial punishments for boycotting or divesting from Israel under new PA bill. This is the type of stuff that left-wing commentators should be talking about. Like, if you're a left-wing horse race commentator, you should be taking this in to consideration. You should be like, I'm a horse race commentator. This is my VP tier list. If this person gets power, they're going to crush me. That makes them F tier. Do you understand? Like, do you get what I mean? Because when I am saying something, I have influence over my audience. And if I have an audience of 100,000 people and I tell them that Josh Shapiro is B tier, and they go and make memes that he's B tier, they start spreading the idea that he would be a good pick, that's fucking shooting myself in the fucking foot. I don't know, just my opinion. If Josh Shapiro gets picked, he literally hates you. He literally hates you. If you think Palestinians are people, he hates you. He fucking hates you. He wants you to die. He wants to use fucking force against you. Hasan basically said they might just go with Shapiro to secure Pennsylvania. It won't secure Pennsylvania. That's what's funny about it, is it doesn't secure Pennsylvania. VP picks don't secure states. You want to see Josh Shapiro's support crater to 50% or below in Pennsylvania? Put him on the VP ticket. All that will happen is that everybody will realize he is a partisan Democrat. Everybody who approved of him, who likes Trump, will disapprove of him. His support will crater, and he will not secure Pennsylvania. How do people not know this yet? This is the year of our Lord 2024. What the fuck are you guys thinking? Are you children? Like, what is going on? The entire right-wing media will trash him as a fucking socialist. The problem is he's not. So if he wins, he's going to do right-wing policies. Why the fuck would you do this? It's not going to secure shit. It's not going to secure anything. What the fuck is going on with this brain rot shit? This is trash. Okay, let me explain it to you and how you should actually think about it. You pick people, they will tell you what their ideology is. There's different ideologies. Different candidates have different ideologies. Voters don't know what that means. They literally don't know what it means. They have different vibes, okay? And then you have material things that people bring, like money. If somebody is already nationally known and super popular as a partisan, then that's a different story. Like Bernie Sanders, people like him, even though they know he's left-wing. How does that make sense? It's because the vibes are good. They like his vibes. They think he's trustworthy. They think he's honest. Josh Shapiro's vibes have not been tested, and I can tell you right fucking now, it's not going to hold up. So what are we getting as far as policy? Now, I'm an ideological voter. There's not very many of me out there, as I've fucking learned since Joe Biden drops out. Many of the people who I thought were actually progressive have been going goo goo gaga eyes over Kamala Harris and her dumbass, which is very fucking embarrassing. But I'm letting people get it out of their system because they're ecstatic that Joe Biden is dropping out and we might have a chance to beat Trump. It's fine. Okay? I'm not going to bust up people too much. And you know what? I'm waiting to see what Kamala Harris says about Palestine, which is my number one issue. Because there's a genocide going on, and any other choice would be morally bankrupt. So, this is what I'm doing. I'm giving her the opportunity to blaze her own trail on Israel. I'm not going to say she sucks yet until I see what her response is to the Israeli situation. Are we going into November with the Gaza genocide going on? Then I'm voting against the Democrats. Let us be happy is for children. You know, the problem of just letting you be happy is you're going to have an emotional swing to the negative when reality hits. You're allowed to be optimistic. You're allowed to enjoy the W, but you also are not allowed to then become delusionally happy and fucking manic. I think JB is better than Gretchen Bashir pretty clearly. Like, if you're just talking about policies, he's the best on policies. And that's the only thing I care about. Does that mean that he's actually a socialist or something? No, it doesn't. But all I care about is who has demonstrated the most left-wing rhetoric and the most left-wing policies. Anything else is irrelevant to me. And I would disagree with that. I would say that Bashir is probably my number 2, but he's like significantly worse. And everybody else sucks. And I would probably put Gavin Newsom ahead of Gretchen and Shapiro and Kelly on policy. Didn't JB oppose a ceasefire? I'm sure he's terrible on Israel too. I'm sure he's terrible on Israel too. This is the problem that I have, is that we need this genocide to end, to have any kind of sanity. 6-way parlay. I want Biden stepped out on Sunday. I want Kamala at the convention. I want Trump, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Kamala electoral, Kamala popular. Read it back to me. I mean, that's what Nancy Pelosi does, but she does that in the stock market.
She has no idea who Mike is.
Mike. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. But your name, wanna start changing your ways. Change new ways. We're changing your name. Change